Welcome to the Abundant Accountant Podcast. This is where accounting professionals just like you come to learn the most efficient and powerful ways to grow their firm, sharpen their sales skills, and have consistent, increasing revenue. We cover topics from sales, networking, handling objections, negotiation, pricing, finding those ideal clients, and how to get rid of the ones that just don't suit you and how to set those boundaries so you can stop giving away your time, working for free, putting yourself on sale, and really start to get paid for the value and the worth that you bring to your clients. You'll learn tips, strategies, as well as hear others from personal interviews from successful accounting professionals. This podcast will show you exactly how to create the firm and life of your dreams full of abundance. Welcome to the Abundant Accountant Podcast. Today, we have a very special guest. Our special guest has been a CPA since 2000 and has devoted her career to enhancing the expertise of accounting professionals while helping small businesses minimize their tax burden. She emphasizes on proactive tax planning strategies, enabling small companies to leverage the laws in the same way large corporations do. She founded the American Institute of Certified Tax Planners in 2009 to share her approach with other accounting professionals. And this nonprofit organization trains and certifies tax experts in proactive tax planning with over 1,200 certified tax coaches, planners, and strategists across the nation, serving over 360,000 entrepreneurial businesses. But before we welcome our special guest to the show, what if I told you there was a way that you could only work with your ideal clients who value your expertise and do it within a 2-month period? But before we welcome our special guest to the show, what if I told you there was a way that you could only work with your ideal clients who value your expertise and time within the next 2 months without having to hound clients for paperwork or having to spend every night and weekend working just to keep up, and without having to sacrifice your family time and freedom? And what if in just 8 weeks you could multiply your revenue while working just 4 days a week, even if you're right now stuck at 12 to 16-hour days and having to work weekends just to keep up? And not only that, but I'm going to show you how to do all of this in a way that feels simple, effortless, and automatic, so you barely even have to think about it. And this is the same system that I've shown hundreds of accounting, tax, and bookkeeping firm owners, just like you, who have used it to create thriving firms they've always dreamt of. If you want me to show you exactly how to do this, go to theabundantcall.com and book a call with me and my team right now. And now let's welcome Dominique Molina to the show. Welcome, Dominique, to the show.
Oh, thanks for having me, Michelle. I always enjoy our time together.
Thanks for being back here on the Abundant Accountant Podcast. And just real quick before we start, for someone that might not know who you are, if you could share in 30 seconds to a minute who you are and what is it that you do, Dominique?
Ooh, very good question. And you didn't give me much time, so that means I have to be very extra quick. Is this part of the 30 seconds?
Yeah.
Well, I've been in practice a long time. I'm a CPA and did what most people do, got licensed, educated, all that jazz, worked for the big firm and ran what I would call a traditional tax practice, and did that until 2006 when I realized that it was not sustainable for me. And since 2006, I've really dedicated my career to doing a lot more for my clients through tax planning and advanced tax reduction. And along the way, got a lot of interest from other accountants across the country that wanted to do the same thing. There's a lot of benefits to running your business this way, getting paid premium fees and working under your own terms. And so we started in 2009, the American Institute of Certified Tax Planners. And I share that approach and do technical training on advanced tax reduction through our licensing program to become a certified tax planner.
Awesome.
So, very proud of the work that I do, but I'm still a practicing accountant first and foremost, and am in the trenches every day and know that it can be treacherous, but it can also be extremely rewarding, and it does not have to be treacherous unless you want it to be. And there
Right.
are those of us who want it to be treacherous.
Well, and I think what you're doing for the community and for the industry is just such an important element in order for to deliver more value to the clients and for the firm owners to get paid premium fees. And I know today we're going to talk about one major area that I've noticed, and I'm sure you have as well, because there's just so many firm owners doing research and looking up the tax code and doing all this stuff and basically working for free. And so today we're going to talk about, how do you see firm owners getting paid to do their research, and so they actually feel that every moment that they're putting in for a client, they are seeing a return on that investment of time, and nothing's given away for free anymore. There's no quick questions. There's no 10, 20 hours of research for a tax strategy that they're not being compensated for. So I'm very excited to talk about that with you today.
Yeah, and I think it does fit really nicely in with tax planning, which is always my focus. But there's a lot of research that comes by way of compliance as well, because I think as accountants, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to know it all.
Yes.
That's just not realistic at all. There is such a huge amount of information to know to be even just competent at this job, let alone excel. And so that's why we see people eat time, because they feel under pressure, under the gun to know it when somebody brings it up or when you're getting ready to meet with somebody. And it's not realistic to have to suck that up. And so there are ways, and we'll talk about creative ways to get paid for that today.
Awesome. And I think, like you mentioned, there are so many firm owners, and we talk to, many on a weekly basis who feel that pressure and feel like they're under the gun and that they have to know it all. So, what do you think is the best turnaround instead of having to feel that pressure where they can kind of feel more free and at ease and at peace with a way to do the research and not have to feel the pressure of knowing it all, but getting back to the client when they are ready, or have done the research and have done the knowledge, gotten the knowledge that they need in order to have the confidence to share whatever it is with that client? Because I think a big piece to this is lack of confidence too on the technical side.
Yeah, and that's where that self-doubt comes in, because you're holding yourself to this impossible standard. So the first part of that is really getting real with yourself to say, look, this is a vast industry. It's not only coming into an existing industry that is rich, but it's also constantly changing. And so it's not realistic that there would be any human being on the planet that knows it all. And so just getting real with that, I think sometimes when you're just starting out, especially, you're not sure what you're supposed to know yet because you don't have a lot of experience behind you. And so there's that pressure to perform and get it right. But I've also noticed that as we age and we build up that experience, we also place that same pressure on ourselves, because then we feel like, well, I've been in the business for 35 years. I should know this, you know? So get rid of the shoulds and be real. And the reality is that in that moment, you do not know the answer. And that's the reality of it. The biggest change that I would recommend making is be proactive instead of reactive. It's very stressful to be put on the spot to answer a question about anything, even if you know the answer. So even if you know the answer, I want you to get yourself out of that spotlight, out of that pressure cooker where you feel like you have to tell it, because of a couple reasons. Number one, I'm just a nice person, and so I usually cave and just give out the answer for free, which I know you don't like, Michelle.
No, I don't like, and I don't like when people do research for free either, which is why I was so excited to talk about this topic today. I've talked to thousands of firm owners, and I think everyone is nice and a people pleaser, and we want to help our clients and prospects. But like you said, how do we take this proactive approach versus being reactive and understand that the pressure to perform and to know everything is put on ourselves. The client isn't demanding it. It's just the pressure that we feel to be the nice person, give the answer away, and try to do it right then and there, when in reality, it's not doing the client any good. And I don't think it does the firm owner any good. And maybe you can share a story too, Dominique, personally, on how you like really learned this lesson to make the shift in, getting real with yourself at the time.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, when I came to a crossroads in my own practice, I realized that part of why I was so unhappy and stressed out and burned out and maxed out was because of the way that I was running my business. And really, I was not running the business was running me.
Mhm.
And so I came to a crossroads where I thought, I have to get out of this business altogether. It's killing me. But the problem was I didn't want to. There were aspects of the business that I really loved. And so when I took a really good hard look, the problems that I was facing in the business were all the things I was doing, but not getting paid for. And of
Yep.
course, research is one of those things, right? Because at the time, I really felt this pressure to be able to give an accurate and complete answer. And what I found over time is that as you shift your work style from being reactive to being proactive, that allows you to answer questions on your timing, to give yourself the space that you need to say, do that research. So let me give you an example.
Okay.
Reactive is I get a call or an email or somebody even just drops by and they go, hey, I'm making payments to my girlfriend through my business. Do I have to report that? Okay, well, I could answer that really easy by saying, well, no, those are gifts. Or I could say, well, yeah, you absolutely have to report that. She needs a W-2 and you've got to
Mhm.
withhold and do all of that. The truth is, I don't know the right answer in that moment because I have to do much more exploration. Does she meet the definition of an employee? Do you have an employer-employee relationship? What is she actually doing for the business? Is it ordinary and necessary for the business?
Mhm.
Is she, do you control the work? Is she reporting just like any other employee would? And so what happens when you're reactive is that you can't predict when those questions arise. And because we're busy, we then feel even more under the gun to come up with an answer in that moment. And we might give the wrong answer. And we might give the right answer, but to give the right answer, we have to put even more time into it to explore the background and ask follow-up questions.
Yep.
So the number one way to get out from under that is to work proactively so that when somebody calls my office, the only clients I work with are on a tax maintenance plan, which means that I'm paid every single month, whether I work on their case or not. It's a bundled service agreement. And when those calls come in, I say, that's a great question. We're going to add it to your agenda for our next scheduled meeting. Our next scheduled meeting is blank. If they need to know it before then, they can use one of our prepaid consultations that is already paid for. But either way, it now buys me time. It allows me to get out from the spotlight and now do things on my own terms. And that can include any research that's necessary, taking a look at their current financials, looking real time at what do the books look like? How is he showing that withdrawal right now? Is it even on the books? Is it paid in cash? And you can ask follow-up questions to get the data that you need to answer that question.
I love it. And so when you made the shift to, doing your monthly tax maintenance plans, having the scheduled meetings, really being able to, like you said, take yourself out of the spotlight and get out of the pressure cooker and have time to breathe. What did you see as far as an increase in your revenue and a decrease in your stress from being put on the spot and thinking that you had to answer everything, when in reality, like you shared earlier, you didn't even have enough information to answer that correctly. There's so many other elements and things that you need in order to generate the correct answer and do it thoroughly versus quickly. But when we feel that pressure, and I know that this is a real thing for so many people, and we feel like we should have to answer it, like you shared earlier, we have to get rid of the shoulds and be in the moment. How did you see that shift in your revenue and in sales? And I know that you've shared this and have taught it to all of your clients as well. But what have you seen as the biggest revenue shifts?
Well, I'll tell you what, and I'll just be brutally honest here. Initially, it was really, really tough, like tougher than the work that I had been doing, because to make that shift when I already had a full practice, when I already was working 60 hours a week, I had to dig even deeper. So initially, it was very, very difficult, but it was only challenging for about 18 months. And I really started to get relief after about 18 months.
Mm.
I saw revenue building all through that 18-month period of time. In fact,
Mhm.
over an 18-month period of time, my revenue increased by $500,000 in a year.
Wow.
But who cares, right?
Right.
If I'm a drooling vegetable because I can't function because all I'm doing is working, I don't really care if I made $500,000 more, right? But after about 18 months of doing this work, I really started to then get paid back in time and money.
Mhm.
And I was doing that by increasing revenues per client and decreasing the number of clients that I was working with so that I could afford to put much more time into each case. And initially, I had to do both because the reality was I couldn't afford financially to walk away from who I was working with at that time.
Yes.
So it was very difficult, but over time, and it's been millions and millions of dollars since that time, and now it's not difficult at all. It's extremely easy, and in fact, I work very, very passively in my tax practice. It's in fact how I can do so much teaching because I've got a practice that now supports my life versus having a business that controls me and runs me to death.
No, and I think it's so beautiful of what you're able to share and educate to all CPAs and EAs that want to learn from you. So I think that's great. And from all the calls that I've done and talking to firm owners, I would say most firm owners research on average of 2 to minimum of 10 hours per week. So just call it, 10 to 40 hours on a monthly basis where they were never getting paid for it before. And I know you said the first thing that they had to do was really get real with themselves. What's the second thing to really see that increase of revenue and make these changes and become proactive instead of reactive and get rid of the shoulds in order for them to see, okay, well, I researched 10 to 40 hours, but hey, you know what? I'm seeing the money in the bank account. I'm not living paycheck to paycheck. I just had a client yesterday say this is the first time they were ever able to pay for their tax software without having to borrow money. And to have that kind of freedom and be proactive in your firm from that standpoint instead of being reactive, not having money, living literally paycheck to paycheck, owning a firm, it's a massive shift. And I think it all stems from making sure that you are getting paid for the research. So, what's the second most important thing?
So, second most important shift is getting paid for the value you create. I was an early adopter and I'm a huge proponent of value pricing. And most firms, regardless of what they say on surveys, are not pricing this way. I think people get confused when they are quoting flat rates for projects
Yep.
and they confuse that as value pricing. There's a tremendous amount of value behind the research that we're doing. And I think when you hear us, Michelle, explaining how much time we spend researching, what we're trying to do is develop our expertise. And
Yep,
of course, that helps us, right?
it
Because
does.
we're continuing to learn, it enhances that expertise. But that's meaningless unless you don't get paid for the expertise. So if you're building that specialty, but you're still just getting paid to fill out forms, then
Mhm.
it doesn't actually make you more valuable to your current and your future clients. So,
Yep.
what you need to do is implement value pricing. And when I can attach, and in this case, I'm attaching real cold hard cash in the form of tax savings. When I deliver that on the back end of a research project, that's something that people
Mhm.
can get behind. So instead of when somebody says, hey, I'm opening up a maquiladora across the border in Mexico and it's going to be my manufacturing plant, what does that mean?
Mhm.
Well, I can sit there and do 20 or 30 hours of research so that I can explain the compliance of it. How do you comply with the laws? How do you report it on your tax return? Or I can say, hey, great news. There's some really cool international tax planning strategies that you'll qualify for. And in fact, there's one that's going to give you a huge boost in your tax savings. It'll save you roughly $25,000 a year.
Mm.
And if you do this the right way and we do strategic planning together, I can help you make sure that you capture that $25,000 and make sure you're not paying taxes you don't need to pay.
Yeah. And I think that's the key ingredient is that when you implement the value pricing, which you were able to do so successfully, then you are being paid for the research when they pay you to do the plan and execute the technical side
But
of
it
things.
can't be done reactively because here's what that sounds like, Michelle.
Okay.
If I'm responding to that call and I'm not responding to the call under a monthly prepaid agreement, then what I do is I go and I do the research because I don't know how long it's going to take me to find the answer.
Yep.
Then I come back and I go, oh, yeah, we're going to file this form and this is the proper way to account for that. And you're going to use intercompany transfer pricing and we'll get that all recorded for you and taken care of. And here's my bill. My bill is for 20 hours of research and I bill $200 an hour. So please take care of this. Do you want to use your credit card or mail in a check?
Mhm.
And then the client's reaction is like, what? They can't see the value in what I've done. And so if you're making that transition, a great way to do it is to put that question behind a tax plan. The answer is at the end of the tax plan. And the question you're going to ask them is, do you want me to do this planning? Here's how much you can save, and here's how much it costs. See, we spring these prices on people after we've already done the work, which
Right.
is not good for them and it's not good for us. It's
Yeah.
not good for us because chances are they're not going to be happy with that. And they'll either say no, in which case I don't get paid for that work. And it's not good for them because it's this blank check. Well, they don't even know what they're committing to have me go and do the research. So
Yeah.
to make that shift, put it behind a tax plan. Say, that's a good question. And I'd be happy to look more into that for you. The way that I do it, and we train here at the Institute, is you go away, you look at their situation, you come back, you say, here's how much I think I can save you, and here's what it's going to cost for the tax plan. Do you want to do it? Yes or no? That way the person knows exactly what they're buying. You get that buy-in up front before you do the research. They say yes, you do the research. Most importantly, you put it in writing. And that way they don't misunderstand what you're trying to explain. And you get paid. And preferably you get paid before you even start that
Yeah.
research.
And how much in revenue have you seen an average with all the people in the institute that you've helped and in yourself? If they were on average researching 10 to 40 hours on a monthly basis, seeing $0 in revenue, to when they implemented value pricing, they were able to have all their questions be built into a tax plan and execute it in the way that you show them how to do it, so they are getting paid every single time for research.
Well, I've got some good data to share with you, Michelle, because we
Okay.
actually track that here at the Institute because our
Oh,
goal is to improve that number continually. So when we work with folks, it changes over time. Obviously, people get more experience under their belt and they build more confidence, right?
yep.
But on average, what we're seeing with people is they are charging on average 11 to $15,000 per plan, and they are selling an average of 13 to 22 plans per year,
Mm-hmm.
when prior to that they sold 0 to 5 coming in.
Mm-hmm.
And the good news is that on average they're saving each client with those plans, they're saving their clients 67 to 205,000 per year.
Wow.
And their increased revenue there is between $58,000 and $70,000 in year one. And then in terms of hours worked, average hours worked after 1 year is just 38 hours per week
Wow.
to generate those kinds of results. And, you know, the revenue is nice, but I really like the number that we're seeing with how much savings we're able to create for our clients. Because to turn to a client and say, I'm going to shave $67,000 a year from your tax bill, they are thrilled at that possibility. And I'm getting paid $10,000 to $20,000 to do that, and about 5 to 10 hours worth of work, including research if there's any research that needs to
Yeah, no,
happen.
and I thank you for sharing those stats and the numbers. And, I want to just reiterate this is tough to do, like you said. And if you want to continue to be a drooling vegetable doing a bunch of free research, continue what you're doing. But like you said, you can make the shift. You just have to dig deeper and really work on it. And, you've had great results with people just in a 12-month period. But even if it were to take 18 months to see this transition, it's such a massive change to the way you operate your firm, being proactive versus reactive.
Absolutely. It gives you a competitive advantage. It really does. I think people see this as scary because what if I lose my clients? But in reality, you are creating an advantage, a differentiating factor between you and your competitors. But it's all in how you position this, right? You can position this so that you can have great client retention, great client satisfaction, because you're providing this insightful, timely advice throughout the year.
Mm-hmm.
Or you can continue to be reactive, feel under pressure constantly, which is a very stressful state of mind, let me add.
Mm-hmm.
You can generate more revenue for yourself. You can do a lot more for your clients when you transition this way. And you're still accomplishing the other things, the other benefits you get out of research anyway. Again, you're developing your expertise. You're, of course, going to get paid for that. But the other benefit we see is you're mitigating your risk when you engage in thorough tax research, and especially when you document it, when you put it in writing. Most of us don't put it in writing because we don't have time to do that. But when I get paid 10 to 20,000, I can put that in writing.
Yeah, you have plenty
And
of time.
yes, and that reduces the risk of audits. It reduces the risk of penalties, other costly tax controversies, and it also makes things very clear so that later, if the client misunderstood what I had to say, I can always point back to that written communication and say, well, this is what we talked about, remember?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I think proper documentation, proper engagement letters is something when we're reactive, it gets missed. But when you're proactive, you actually come with those things ready to go when you meet with the client because you're operating at a different level. So thank you for sharing that, Dominique. Is there anything else or a third step that we haven't talked about yet that I know you want to probably share on how to really get paid for the time you're researching, be it if it's 2 hours a week, 10 hours a week, and making this transition from being reactive to being proactive so you don't have to feel the pressure and you don't have to feel like you're under the gun at all times.
Yes. So we talked first and second step. The
Yep.
third step is to productize your service. When people don't really understand what we do, and when that's the case, it makes it really hard for them to see any value at all in what we do. And so when you work this way, it allows you to offer custom solutions for each client. You can design a package, a suite of services that meets each individual taxpayer's needs and allows you to get paid upfront in advance, whether you're at work or you're not at work, disconnecting your value from time and disconnecting your value from something that's vague or maybe, it keeps you out of jail. I guess it gives you peace of mind when you file the tax return properly. But when we can attach our value to something much more concrete, we're productizing what we offer. And so we take a group of ideal services for us. What works in your firm? What things do you like to do? What things do you do well? And for everything else, you just make sure you have a good network of people so that you can refer out when other needs come up. But if you center on what's good for you, it's going to end up being what's best for your clients. You're going to be more profitable in your firm, and you're going to tie your value into tangible, immediate results. And that's what really allows you to get paid a lot more than what the so-called going rates are in the business.
So true. And if you can just share a real example of what that looks like for a firm owner that might be confused when you're saying, well, you know, productize your services. And they're like, well, I do tax planning, I do tax resolution, I do bookkeeping. I already have it that way, Dominique. What do you really mean when you disconnect the value from the time?
So the first thing you have to do is stop billing for time, because when we send an invoice that has time on it, or when we talk about how long something's going to take us to do, I meet a lot of tax professionals that say, I no longer prepare tax returns in front of the client because I don't want them to see that
How
it
long
doesn't
it
take
takes?
me very long
Yep.
to do the work. That's attributing your value to the time, right? And our
Yes.
fear is that if
100%.
yeah, our fear is, if they see that this only took me 2 hours and I'm getting paid $750, I don't want them knowing that. We are contributing to that problem. We're actually helping
Hmm.
that solidify that idea in the customer's mind, right?
Yep.
So what we want to do is we want to bill for results. And the way that we do that is by labeling our packages in a way that describe the results that we're creating for people. And so one example might be, we all want to, if you're working with beginners in business, there should be some sort of beginner level package, that is geared towards the new entrepreneur, the new freelancer, the new gig economy worker. It would include things like your annual tax preparation of your personal return, your business return. It might include things like 1 to 2 extra sessions per year where you're focusing on tax reduction. It might include a certain number of email consultations or access to your library of training videos, for example, so that they can understand what's being recommended to them.
Yeah.
Can include things like due date monitoring and newsletters if you offer those things in your firm. And I would call that something like Smart Start Entrepreneur. What I'm doing is I am productizing what I'm offering. And the second step in that is to say this package, this Smart Start Entrepreneur package, is going to save you $12,000 over the next year. And the price for that is just $5,000.
Hmm. Yeah.
And so again, it has nothing to do. I'm not pricing things piecemeal. I'm not itemizing a breakdown of how I came up with the $5,000 price. I'm just attributing that price to what's best for my firm and based on the value that I create for the person. And then I label it as a product so that it's more concrete and tangible in their mind.
Yeah. And I love how you said it, from the sales perspective. And what we focus on here is the outcome. And when you shared what's in this beginner level package for a new entrepreneur or whatever, you're focusing on tax reduction, due date monetization or monitoring, I think you said. And those are all outcomes of deliverables that you're doing for the client that you're going to help them with. And Smart Start Entrepreneur makes smart sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So you're
And
appealing to a couple things there with the person. First of all, you're going to attract with that title.
smart
It's going to
entrepreneur.
resonate with somebody that wants to be smart as an entrepreneur when they're first getting started. And it might turn off the person that doesn't really care.
Yeah.
And that's equally as important because I want to be able to sort through and filter out the people that aren't going to be a good fit for me to work in this way together.
Yeah. And that's coming up with this in advance and not doing it on a fly by night seat of your pants. Again, going back to being proactive versus reactive and having this all thought out before meeting with the clients who are asking a lot of questions and asking you to do a lot of research without you getting paid is the way to go. So thank you for sharing that, Dominique. Is there anything else that maybe we didn't cover yet that you want to share on how a firm owner can really get paid for their research and maximize their not only investment of time, but return on their bank account of the cash that they have in their bank that we didn't discuss yet that you want to share?
Yes, and that is using a research resource that is directed towards the service that you're offering. What I mean by that is there's lots of different tax research software out there, Checkpoint and PPC's compliance library and LexisNexis and all kinds of different options that are there. But if you're focused on tax strategy and tax reduction, you want to make sure that you're using a research tool that focuses on tax reduction. The compliance end of it is necessary, and you'll find that the tax planning research options also include compliance, but the focus is heavily on tax planning so that you can learn more and more ways to save someone money. And so that's essential because if you're going to tie your pay to how much value you can create for somebody,
Yeah.
then the more value you create, the more money you can make. And the opposite is true. If you can't create very much value, and I get this question asked a lot is, well, what happens, say I see somebody and they already have an S Corp. What do I do then? There's nothing left to do. Well, that means it's time to build your expertise. It's time to be able to continue to develop so that you can stay current on what's happening in the strategy realm. There's well over 1,500 different strategies available if you count tax credits. And it's a continuous learning process to enhance all the ways that you know how to add value to someone.
Yeah.
And so really being connected to a resource that can help with that is key.
Yeah, I like to call this be the specialist, not the generalist. So if you're going to, focus on tax planning and doing the value pricing and everything you're talking about, you want to also choose a resource for the research specifically for tax planning where you can learn these 1,500 strategies or maybe even just focus on a handful. I was actually talking to a friend today who lives in the UK and travels around the world, but has a US based business, but has to pay taxes in the UK. Sounds complicated, but you could focus on those types of entrepreneurs that are focused on that and get the strategies and become the specialist in that area. I like a neurosurgeon of doctors versus your general practitioner. This is the neurosurgeon of tax. And you could take it one other level. You could say international tax for entrepreneurs and become the specialist for that and make, then you really can get paid a premium.
Absolutely. And it makes your marketing a lot easier to speak
Mhm.
directly to and resonate with the people that you are trying to attract.
Yep.
Can be a really effective way to leverage what you know how to do, to narrow down what you need to learn, and make your marketing message much more effective.
Well, Dominique, thank you so much for sharing all of these amazing insights to not be the drooling vegetable. I just have that image in my head of a really soggy zucchini when you said that. The spiral zucchinis. It's like how much longer do you want to be that spiral zucchini? And you can make these changes and get paid for all of the research and especially if you enjoy the research part a lot. I mean, might as well get paid really well for it, just like the scientists do. They get paid in the lab researching everything, millions of dollars. So you can too. Um,
Absolutely. And I've got a great resource I'm happy to share for
yes,
that.
please.
I highly recommend Think Outside the Tax Box. It is a premier tax reduction source. There will be very soon a research tool associated with that provides not only all the compliance, but a tax reduction focus called Tax Planner Pro. You can learn more just by going to tottb.tax. So it stands
Okay.
for Think Outside the Tax Box. It's all the initials, TOTTB.tax. And that makes it really manageable because you're getting bite-sized chunks of effective ways to reduce tax every week. And then a sophisticated tool to be able to do the deeper research on court cases and code sections and everything else you need.
Awesome. Well, thank you for sharing that research. Thank you for sharing that. I know resource. And as always, it's an honor to have you here on the Abundant Accountant podcast. And if someone wants to get trained with tax planning, how can they find you?
Everyone can find me on LinkedIn. You can also find me at certifiedtaxplanners.com. And happy to chat with you about whether or not a tax planning focus is right for your firm or what that might look like.
Cool.
And the bottom line is whether you choose that path for yourself or not, start getting paid what you're worth, because the work that we're doing every single day is worth a lot more than we're charging.
I 100% agree. And thank you again, Dominique, for being here with us on the Abundant Accountant podcast. It is an honor to have you here.
Thanks, Michelle.
Thank you all so much for joining Dominique and I today on another amazing episode here at the Abundant Accountant podcast. And if you're like a lot of tax, accounting, and bookkeeping firm owners and you want to stop trading time for dollars and stop doing research for free and really let go of all of those overly demanding clients and finally get paid based on your value and worth while boosting your revenue massively, here's what I've got for you. Here at the Abundant Accountant, I show you a system to fill your firm with ideal clients who value your time so you can catapult your firm to the next level and only work the hours you want to work while still having plenty of free time every single week for yourself and your family. And not only that, I'm going to show you how to do all of this in a way that feels simple, effortless, and automatic. If you want me to show you exactly how to do this, go to theabundantcall.com and book a call with me and my team right now. You can get paid for all the research you do, and you can decrease your hours to 38 hours to 40 hours tops. So make sure to go to theabundantcall.com, and we look forward to speaking with some of you soon. Have a beautiful day, and I'll see you in the next episode.